So Nelson George, author, novelist, journalist, music journalist, anthologist, producer, film writer. So which of those things keeps you up most at night if you had to wear the hats?
Essentially, I'm a writer, and everything that I do still comes from writing. Whether it's editing the Missy Copeland doc, or working on the Get Down, or in the books I do, they all come from a certain kind of narrative understanding. Though each medium requires different things. Ultimately, the ability to write is what gets me in the door at all these places.
So which of those things makes you flex the most?
Well, I mean, when I'm in trouble or when I'm emotionally, spiritually unsettled, it's writing. Because you can always go back and get your notebook out and be in the subway or be in a cafe or be in bed and write. So when people say they're blocked, I always say that that's probably because you're trying to squeeze it out. Your subconscious is working. And the key thing is not to try and squeeze it out, but let your subconscious literally work.
So what's your process then?
I write by hand.
Are you a person who has like the back of every envelope filled with things? Notebooks, like old school, pen to paper.
Black and white composition books. If you write just on computer, you write too fast.
Is it?
Yeah.
So what's the danger in writing too fast?
That you don't think it through. So I write by hand, and so then I transfer it to computer. So then it basically becomes an edit.
Okay. Do you do it yourself, or do you have a person who transfers?
No, it's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
Writing. It's very your own voice, your own thing. So no.
So how do you know when you're writing good versus when you're writing fast?
Just you read it out loud. Once you read it out loud, you can tell the rhythm. Because it's all about rhythm.
Yeah.
It's all about rhythm. And if the rhythm's wrong, you can feel it. It feels rushed. I feel like if you're working on a project, whatever that may be, it's in here. And sometimes the best way to let it come out is not to try and make it come out.
Yeah.
Live your life.
Yeah.
A big part of writing is not writing. This isn't mathematics.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual connection. And so you have to let your mind be open enough.
Is that where the idea for this, the fourth in the series, To Funk and Die in LA, where did this idea come from?
It comes from a variety. This book is an amalgam of a lot of different experiences. Like when I started going to LA a lot in the 80s, I saw that there was this veneer of success, but there's a lot of desperation, a lot of people who are not doing well. My first time in LA, I walked on Hollywood Boulevard, and they had cruising. There were cars going really slow, and they were all playing Rick James's "Give It to." They were playing "Give It to Me, Baby" over and over again.
Yeah.
So funk was impinged in my mind.
Your memories of LA.
And so all those things happened. Finally, I lived in LA for most of, I think, 2013. I worked on the Get Down. We were beginning the Get Down process for about 5 months. So I spent a lot of time wandering around the city. And I think that I'm very proud of the book is that it's a really good depiction of Los Angeles as I see it, as opposed to, the more sparkly part. It has some sparkly parts in it, but the scope of the city.
But not to be confused, there is a lot of Brooklyn infused in it as well when D comes onto the scene.
Right. Well, he's from there, but he's a guy grappling with this new city. His grandfather, shop owner in Crenshaw District, traditional black neighborhood, is murdered early in the book. And he begins to unfold the sort of subterranean life of his grandfather.
Yeah. So I said this to Walter Mosley, and these detective novels are really Trojan horses because there's so much social commentary infused in this thing. So I wonder, what are you sneaking in when someone's just like, I'm reading this and you're talking about Koreatown, budding black historic and the Mexican influence as well, and what's happening in Brooklyn and all of your observations about LA. So what are you sneaking in under the guise of whodunit?
There are two things I really wanted to talk about, which was Black-Korean relations, which is the sort of if there's a Chinatown thing, the Black-Korean relations is that subterranean thread that runs through the whole book. And then the homelessness in LA. LA has a tremendous homeless problem.
That's right.
And it just strikes me, I'm always struck by seeing homeless men, particularly black men who a lot of them my age.
Yeah.
So I always wonder what turn happened. How did they end up here? How did they end up on this street?
Yeah.
What happened to their family? What happened to their loved ones? Where did that turn happen? It's one of the keys to unlocking what's going on with the black community to me is the black homeless problem.
Yeah.
because there's a whole wealth of men here who, some of whom really need psychiatric help.
Yeah.
Some if they'd be okay if they're on medication. So that's one of the subterranean threads into
like ghosts.
Funk and Dine LA. Yes.
Yeah, seen and not seen.
Yeah.
So are you over talking about New York gentrification?
Oh, for now, yeah. Yeah, it's.
There's nothing that hasn't been said.
There's buildings all over the place. What are you gonna do? I mean, this shit's done.
So what's next then?
Right now we're in a curatorial era. Whether it's, like I'm doing, in the new book, I'm doing a whole big section on funk.
Okay.
Because funk has gone through this whole arc where there's old black people who love certain bands and going to Tom Joyner Cruise, right? But then there's go to Brooklyn Bowl on any given night, and there's a majority white band, Lettuce or Galactic, playing funk.
Yeah.
I mean, like, listen, I spent most of my, a great much of my years going in this area on Fulton Street on the other side. I didn't really come over here.
Yeah, yeah.
You really didn't come on this side of Flatbush. There was nothing over here.
Nothing here, yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting to move through it and see. I used to see a lot more ghost. I used to see a lot more ghost of my past. But now we're in such an era where, if you know anything about the history of New York, it's the history of transition. When I was growing up, the Jews and the Italians were leaving. I didn't even know any other kind of white people existed. I only knew Schwartzes and I knew Petrocellis.
Yeah.
You know, and I knew to eat knishes and I knew to eat pizza. This other shit, what was that? I don't know what that stuff was out there. These people with like, these real white names.
Yeah.
Because they weren't around me. Those are the people I knew.
Right.
So as they began moving to the suburbs,
They became white.
yes,
Yeah.
they moved to the suburbs and so forth. So I saw that whole change happen in the 70s. I lived through it into the 80s and the turmoil of that.
Yeah.
But the truth is these things are secular.
Yeah.
If you look at any piece of real estate in New York City, so we think this is a, Bed-Stuy is a black community,
Right.
but there's people who think it was a, a white community.
Right, only until it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. So these transitions they're wrenching for you when you live through them perhaps, but everybody has memories of what it used to be. This is the way it goes in cities like this. So I'm not as I'm nostalgic for certain moments, but I just know that everything is temporary.
Yeah.
Even these high rises are temporary.
Well, the book is To Funk and Die in LA. The author is Nelson George. Thanks for spending some time. We
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having me.